Hey guys, welcome to the brand new podcast, the Battle Warrior podcast, guys. And you guys are noticing here, this is the Battle Warrior Chad. What we're looking at, guys, is we're taking the old C's Get Degrees podcast, converting it to the Battle Warrior podcast, to where we're open up to all these phenomenal warriors around the world, sharing their amazing story on how they went from nothing to being successful, either through addiction, through entrepreneurship, through their faith, through everything else. So guys, if you're noticing any name changes coming in the future, or specifically name changes podcasts, the new podcast is called the Battle Warrior Podcast.
I am a warrior. I walk with the gods. I am a warrior. I will never stop. Yeah!
We have Joann Tierney. She's going to yell at me for pronouncing her last name here on the other side of it. Long list of stuff that she is. And the biggest thing with it is author, health mindset coach. I'm not going to go through everything, but she's like me. She has a big plate full of stuff that she's doing. On top of that, I'm going to add in the radio show guest or host. Co-guest. What is your title? Totally for whatever on Wednesday. What is the exact title?
So it's my new show. I'm going to say host. I'm the host of the Forever for Whatever on Wednesday show, which is on the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. It's a new genre for me. I just was invited to host a live show last week. Actually, my first show debuted last Wednesday, and it was a ton of fun. And my podcast is pretty heavy. Adversity to Inspiration. I speak to people who have undergone some type of trauma or overcome some adversity and who are now on the other side of it. But this is a much more fun show, much more lighthearted, and it's been a great success. Week one, I had a great following, and I'm excited to launch into week two and where it takes me.
And I'm gonna piggyback off that, having two separate outlets, because obviously my background with the previous guest that was on your show, and on my side of it, a lot of the podcasts now are going heavy direction. So I'm going down the same path as you. You almost, or say you or us, I'm going to use us. We almost need an outlet where we could just shut the brain off, even though we're not off, but like we could just take all the comedy or whatever the artistic side of it out, put on an outlet and just have some fun. Like we have to have some fun on a different avenue.
Agreed. And I think that because just the last year in general has been so heavy for the population because of the state of the world, that it just brings a different, and it also sheds a different light on us. When we're speaking about such heavy topics, I think people think we're pretty serious, when in reality, we also have a light side, and we're both pretty humorous and good senses of humor. And I think that's a great avenue and a great side of us to show the world too.
Yeah, I'm a nut. We'll just say it that way. It's and that's one thing that I've noticed, like the people that went through trauma, mindset, like whatever it is, like when we have a big party going on in our brain, and that's the best way I'm going to say it tends to be not the boring personalities. It tends to be like the firework personalities, where it's even though we're all bubbly and happy and smiling and happy-go-lucky on the outside, there's battle going on the inside.
Absolutely. I think that everybody most people are multifaceted. And I think that you're certainly an example of that we all have a component of ourselves that is serious, but we also have a component of ourselves that just doesn't want to be serious all the time. We want an outlet. We want some joy. Everybody wants, at the end of the day, I think, to have peace and joy in their lives, and to channel that in any avenue that we can is really a healthy way to live life.
And that's one thing I've learned over, especially going through my history with the addiction, and I don't say overcoming it. Addiction, you truly don't beat it, but you learn how to manage it and move on and kind of help with people on it. And the way I was going to go with it is, the further along in the journey I went, and more I matured into learning about it, how to operate it, and kind of just navigate around it, I've learned that you feel a lot more freer when you can have fun. And it's not having fun with the addiction. It's having fun. Like, okay, let's throw on a dinosaur suit, or let's show up in, bibs, or just, I'm going to call it the Super Troopers humor. Just in it just allows you to have a little fun. It allows you to kind of not be serious all the time. It allows you just to like drop the guard and just have fun with your life.
I think my addiction was food. I was addicted to food, and of course I can't drop that cold turkey. You need food to live. But I think it came to a point where I recognized that food or weight, the excess weight that I had, was protecting me, and it limited me. I limited myself because I didn't want to be visible in the world, because when you're visible, you're vulnerable. And there came a point in my life when I realized it's not only is it protecting me, it's imprisoning me. And I think that's what addiction does. And I think when we don't overcome it. I think you're exactly right. I think that we manage it, and we recover. We're in recovery. And I think that that's when we it's a sense of accomplishment. It's a sense of pride. And when we realize that we're so much more than letting a substance control us, it brings joy into us.
It gives you an ultimate freedom. And I'm gonna give one good analogy of it, and then I'm gonna go on the celebration side of it. So like, the analogy what I'm using is, and we both, we're going to go a little bit further on talking about book collaborations, but someone reached out and said straight out, hey, how can you write a little section about you? I'm like, yes, I will. And I'm going to go pretty much word for word. Hint, guys, something's coming down the pipeline. But with how I use that analogy, I'm like, having addiction is like being chased in the neighborhood by a cop. You can go right, you can go left, you can put the foot on the gas pedal, but eventually, if you hit the brake the wrong time, the addiction's still running behind you. So you almost have to confront it, is the best way I say it, is instead of running away from it, turn around and say, okay, how do I manage it? How do I look at it? How do I confront it? Where did it come from? And kind of go to battle with it. Best way of saying it.
Agreed. I think exactly, you have to confront it. And it came a point in my life where I woke up and I said to myself, I'm tired of letting food control my life. And that's really what was happening. I thought about it all the time. And I still think about it, of course. I thought about it, but if I was, and for me, I didn't use it as a comfort. So many people say they use it as a comfort. I really used it as a punishment. When I felt badly about myself, which is where it all emanated from, I used it to punish myself, because I didn't think I deserved to be attractive or thin or have attention or look worthwhile, or even just to have a worthwhile position in the world. And I think it took a long time. Unfortunately for me, it took decades to recognize that.
Yeah. And I'm 35. So it took me for sure 12 years plus to recognize it. If we go back to when I started, half my life pretty much. So I told someone straight out, I have 22 years worth of drinking. If you break it down past that. And it's like, holy cow, it's actually, I'm live. I'm 35. That's 20. Well, yeah, 12 years, 2013 is when I started. So it's at 12 years, whatever. Street math's not working today. But the way I look at it is pretty much like, it's once we overcome it, it's like a sense of freedom. So it's almost like the handcuffs are off. Not overcome it, but like when we attack it, we approach it, we overcome the battle. It's like the weight's completely lifted.
And I think it also sheds light on other areas of our lives that we have to address. Like for me, I began to overcome the food, but then everything else unfolded. I had to, even when I lost the weight, I ended up losing 100 pounds, but then I had to go back. I still wasn't happy. And throughout my life, I think many countless happy moments, but I had a pervasive feeling of being unhappy throughout my entire life. And I think that until I was able to come to terms with that, because in some respects you feel like a failure, you're failing yourself, you're disappointing others. And until you can get that sense of accomplishment and earn credibility with yourself, I think that you're never going to be happy.
100% correct. And I will admit it this morning that I did not feel so hot today mentally. Just because I think it's just because all the balls are rolling and focusing on what's coming down the pipeline here. But I look at it as day by day battle. So like you can have 20 great days in a row. You earn a day or two of, as much as Tony Robbins doesn't say you can't have a trashy day, you're gonna have a day where your brain's gonna reset. And further along the journey you get, it's less and less and less. It just pretty much you're just like me, and all, we're not going to sound selfish how we say this. We stripped everything down to pretty much the bare bones, and I'm speaking for both of us here. And and we're rebuilding it back up. So like when it comes to, at least on my end, the the goofy spontaneous modeling gigs or whatever it is, something just to have fun for myself, or even me working out, my working out is not, yeah, do I want the girls? Everyone wants girls. Or I'm looking at it as, okay, what challenge can I overcome? So like in my mind, it's more of a battle for my mind, is instead of who's looking at me. Like I really don't care who's looking at me in the gym. It's the, okay, I never had this before in my life, so let's do it. Okay, I've done it. Okay, now, like I said, I'm running a 5K tomorrow, so it's okay. Hey, I've ran 2.5 miles. All right, so tomorrow run 3. It's a continuous battle. So instead of working out your body, you're working out your brain.
I love that. I think for me, and you spoke about how you have some difficult days, and I still do too. And I think because now I have glimpses of success and I have had some opportunities presented to me and given to me, I still get those moments of imposter syndrome, as if, do I deserve all of this? And then that's when I really have to recalibrate and refocus and say and talk about what I preach to everybody else. We all deserve it. We all deserve opportunity and success and living a life of abandon and freedom and peace. And I think that, those small shadows of doubt will always pervade and come into my life. And I think that recognizing that is really the key to being able to manage addiction, because everybody feels those moments, but I have those unhealthy habits that, that can pop up at any time. And I have to kind of rein those in and remember, you do deserve it. Everybody deserves it. We all deserve opportunity. And I don't want to say people pay their dues, because everybody's flawed. I think that addiction really resonates with people who are high functioning and who are perfectionists and who want everything to be perfect. And we were chasing something that didn't exist. And I think that that's really, I think people who have addictions often get a stigma attached to them, but the reality is most of them really want to succeed. And unless life is perfect, then they fall back on habits that aren't necessarily in their best interest.
Excessively high achievers. And I'm going to say excessively. Everyone that I know that battles with it is, we're very street smart. We're very smart in general. We're not as, and I'm not going to badmouth book smart. It's not that. It's a different mindset that we have. It's high achievement. It's a high pace. It's a high, not say high salesy, but it's you're interacting, you're doing whatever it is, you're side hustling, you have to move 100 miles an hour. And speaking from my experience, when someone says, dude, you got to slow down, you got to stop, you got to do that, and all of a sudden you try to slow yourself down, and then you hit that big bad bump where all of a sudden life kind of gives you a good backhand, that's where you lose it. Because your brain's so used to just going on go all the time that when you're forced to sit in a little box trying to slow yourself down, you're not. Okay, slowing yourself down, discipline, it's a great, and your discipline at it, that comes from learning yourself and maturing with yourself. Slowing yourself down because everyone wants you to slow down and you're not matured with it, you're going to fall into addiction because your brain's still stimulated on trying to find something.
It's funny because someone very close to me told me last week that sometimes I can be overwhelmed, taken aback, and well, maybe I should tone it down. But then I realized I don't want to be underwhelming. And I'm tired of limiting myself. I'm overwhelming sometimes because I'm positive and I'm enthusiastic and I love life and I love people and I demonstrate that. I tell you, if I love you, I tell you. If you make me unhappy, I tell you. And I think I really just started to speak my truth in the last 5 years. And I thought to myself, I don't want to be overwhelming. And I mean, I don't want to be underwhelming, and I am going to be overwhelming, and I'm not going to stop being me because somebody is uncomfortable with the new me. And that's honestly how I'm going to approach life.
I'm going to answer that because the last month, and I know you said it correctly, and we're not trying to play the one up here, guys. It's just we're on a similar path on overcoming what we overcome. But someone asked me that question last weekend, and especially it was at a late night church event. They're like, how is overcoming? How's everyone treating you? How is family treating you? Whatever it is. And I looked at them straight out. I said, number one thing I learned in this journey is the people you thought that would be on your side. They are at the beginning to about a year or so into it. And then all of a sudden now, and I'm going to use the light speed change that we all did. But like once opportunity comes, we grab the ball and we run with it. And we're on a different pace in the highway than they are. The further along in journey you're going to go, all of a sudden those people start creeping in where it's like, oh, why are you doing that? How are you doing it? And instead of being believers at the beginning, they're actually being people are trying to hold you back. So like when you're growing fast past them, they really do not like it.
And I don't think that it's not because they don't want us to be successful or want us to be whole, but they're not used to that version and they don't know how to adjust to it, because that's a reflection of their characters and their mindsets at the time. I don't want to say characters if their characters are flawed. I just want to say it's just one of their characteristics and they have to come to terms with who we are. And I think that they're so used to loving the person that we were that they're afraid that the person that we are is too much for them. And that's why you said I was overwhelming. But the reality is I am overwhelming and I'm actually kind of proud of
it. Yeah. Me too. We'll just answer it. Me too. Speaking of the opportunities, and I'm not going to dip on how big my plate is because I'm pretty much like you with everything overflowing. Without getting too in depth in the legal side of it, what's coming down the pipeline?
So what's coming, that I'm now a #1 best-selling author. So I was excited to be part of a compilation piece, The One Habit for the Greatest Leaders in the World. That's an exciting thing. And it's really a segue into the book that we spoke about last time that I'm developing and writing with my family, which is really about addiction. My family, it stems from really generations of addiction. I think that the central theme is that we had a grandfather who was an alcoholic. He came from Ireland. He was actually, and I don't know, I believe I told you this last time, he worked at a famous bar in New York City, and a lot of the clientele were famous, Marilyn Monroe and Bing Crosby. And he just, you know how it is. I mean, I was a bartender in my previous life, and that's just a fun, exciting population to be around, restaurant work and bartending work. But the nature of the beast is that you become a drinker yourself. And in my early life, that certainly was true. So I think that when it's really your lifelong profession, it really became, he was a smoker, he developed cancer, but he was a tough guy behind the scenes with his family. He was a gregarious and popular and funny in front of the clientele. But when he came home, it was a different dark period and a different dark side of him. And that carried into my father's generation and then into my generation. And I want to going to all write a piece about how addiction impacted our lives. And there are many different addictions in my family. Some people were addicted to gambling, some people alcohol, smoking, food. And so we're all going to write a chapter about addiction and how it impacts our lives. And I'm really excited about it because I think it's a healing opportunity for my family. There was some division because there was a socioeconomic divide between some of the branches of the family, and I think it really drove a wedge. So that's my passion project and something I'm very excited about because I get to share it with my family, and it's also going to leave a legacy for our children and hopefully heal the next generation.
And this is just your family, and once that opens up, you're going to be pretty much teaching the world with it.
I hope so. I hope so, because I think that that's really, and you spoke about it earlier before we came on air, really just we're trying to bring value to the world and make a difference. And that's really what it stems from. It's not about our own personal success. And I think many people fail to recognize that the profit, I think for both of us in particular, isn't in the dollar sign. It's really in the impact and the influence. And even if we just help one person, one family, one child, one anybody, that's really my objective and my goal and my hope.
I need to focus on that one person first, because the more let's say it's 100 people that come ask for something, even past the overwhelm of 100 people, I'm still one-on-one focused. And not saying it's 100 people coming at me, but even if I had that scenario, I would still be one-on-one. I think it's just because I'm so used to being in, I don't want to use the term of sales interaction, but like being as an educator or someone that's providing value, you want to make sure that person gets it, versus instead of going to the next person and just kind of spitting it out in a crowd. I want to be, okay, hey, I was that kid in school where I went directly to the teacher. I didn't pay attention in class. When he's like, hey, dude, do it this way. This is how I did it. This is how I want you to do it. And kind of laid it out, ABCDs. I was my education drastically increased. And I think it's the love for just going one-on-one, that if it is coach, and I don't want to use the term coach, and I'm going to convert it to more educator. So back in school, I was supposed to be a teacher. I failed out because I drank too much. But there's still a lot of that teacher in me.
I'm gonna elevate you right here, that you're more than that. I think you are an influencer, and I think you don't recognize just the platform that you have, a podcast. And I think that until I became a podcast host myself, you don't realize that you really are influencing more than one person. And even just our conversations, I think that as guest and host, and we both have the multifaceted role. We both do both. I think that you've elevated my game, and you've already influenced me just as a one-on-one, and not even, that wasn't your intention. Your intention was to interview me, get to know me. And I think that you brought so much more into my life than that. And I think that you don't recognize that. So I want to acknowledge you're an influencer. And I think your influence goes beyond one-on-one. And I think that you're going to have a broad audience in the near future, more so than you have today.
It's we'll just say what's kind of been laid out the last month and a half is the best way, how I worded it to a friend of mine. I'm like, I think I'm gonna, and I'm gonna get churchy here for 2 seconds, guys, but I told her straight out, I said, I think I'm gonna underestimate what his power is. And she's like, don't you ever underestimate his power, like in a nice way of saying it. She's like, he fed the world with 5 fish and 2 loaves of bread, or whatever. Don't quote me on, I'm not reading her text. And I'm like, old sissy's dropping the hammer on this one, but it's slowly by surely I'm growing into that. But I'm going to answer it this way, because we're in a host mode. So we're so used to being in the host that when someone approaches us saying exactly what you just said, which I completely appreciate, thank you. We don't see it from the outside view. We see it just in our own little zone. And it's very, I don't want to use the term very tough. It's a slow burn to kind of leave that chair as a host and kind of step back and see the whole power of it.
That's true. And I'm gonna put a little shout out to somebody near and dear in my life. So this today, and I think that today I was having a moment of imposter syndrome. I had a lot going on my plate. I had the press junket for the book, and I felt a little insecure about all of it. And even your interview, I think that you're a powerful force, and I love speaking to you, but you're a lot too. I'll say you're overwhelming in such a great way. So somebody tagged, there was a message on Facebook, and it said, tag a friend who you find is inspirational. And my niece tagged me, my niece Courtney, I'm going to shout her out. And I think that I responded that there's no greater endorsement for me than that. Someone who's been around me my entire life, and her entire life, not my entire life, and somebody who's very close to you. And to know that that you're influencing someone and they think that you're a positive influence in their life, because that's someone in my family who I hope to leave a legacy for. And I think that that was so touching to me, and it really changed my whole mood. So you're getting a better version of me today because of Courtney. I could have been a little bit intimidated by you, but now I'm up in your game, Chad. I'm in there.
Thank you. Take a little swing for the wall for me. Wake me up a little bit. No, and I'm going to keep a few things that are down the pipeline here on my end of it. I will, once we return for what you were talking about pre-recording, I will explain exactly what's going on, because there's a lot of stuff leaning on the first week of June, and we were talking about that prior, and we're just going to leave it at that. We are recording Friday before Memorial Day, so guys, it's going to be out probably after my announcements here, but potentially there's a lot of let's just say all of us in this industry that started the podcast when that C word started, and we put the time and effort, research and grind into our product. And I don't want to use the term product, but just like the maturation cycle of this, or just the maturity of this. We're hitting to a point where you're kind of going up the stairway and you hit a plateau, and then you go to the next stairway and you hit a plateau. The stuff, just like you, stuff's dropping on your lap that you never expected. And
so you're gonna have to tell everybody about it on the whatever on Wednesday show. I'm gonna book you on that gig, and we're gonna have some fun, and we're gonna talk. We're gonna celebrate you on that show.
We can definitely celebrate me, and I can. There's one topic I do want to bring out, and my sister told me about it, because the place that I'm going to be at when we had a guest on your show that's very good friends with me, we'll just say it that way. So like, we're going to be launching something that's public already, but we're launching Let's Talk Java live at the place that I go to weekly for my business collaboration center is pretty much what it is, small business center. So it's a group of all of us guys and girls that are all entrepreneurs that are in this building. So it's pretty much, we're all mindsets of like engineers, investors, whatever it is. We have 26 people that are part of that building that have their own little nook and crannies. And we're underestimating the power of the place. We'll just say it that way. Like, we don't know what the heck's going to happen 2-3 years from now if everything sinks. The thing I was getting at is down in this town, they have open mic night. And the owner of the place says, "Hey, bro, Thursday nights is open mic night." I'm like, okay. He's like, no, you're doing it. I'm like, okay. And in a short way of saying this story is obviously there's a few things that I have for notes for open mic night, but for some odd reason, my mind's stuck in this black Southern Baptist preacher that's like on Coming to America, just kind of gritty, nutty, all over the place, kind of crazy. And I don't want to word it that way, guys, but that's the only thing that's in my mind on how it is. So we're going to have to talk about that topic too at that time. If it fits your avenue, we'll just say it that way. So
it's whatever on Wednesday. We talk about whatever we want. So let me ask you this. What's the genre? Open mic night? Is it comedy?
It's comedy. Yes.
I think you need to live stream it, not just so that it can't just be, it's got to be live streamed.
I'm going to answer it this way. If it's involving with that group of people, I guarantee someone's going to have it live streamed.
All right, perfect.
Because he's motivated. Well, obviously he's a business owner, he works, he's a family guy, whatever. And he has a motivational speaking company too. So like, his media guy that does all of his videos, upload, editing, all that stuff is the one that's going to be taping our show and doing live streaming, whatever it is. So just how close knit we are as a family down there. If I say, hey, I'm doing open mic night, X, Thursday night, whatever, at 7, I guarantee somehow it's going to be intertwined. Someone's going to have a camera in that chair.
Perfect.
So, we'll build it up. We'll figure out some stuff, but they want all of us in front of the camera more. I've been in front of it a few times. And what I noticed, and we call them First Fridays in the city, but like in the city I'm in, downtown, first Friday of each month, they have their own celebration. And what I did last time it happened, I didn't drink, guys, so don't freak out. But we had beer pong, and we threw water in the cups, and we were all just playing and blast and having fun and whatever. And my body actually thought I was drunk, which was weird. But through the whole process of it, my comedy side came back out. So I'm like, you know what, screw it. People are coming, whatever it is, but I'm gonna use my network to get people down here. So I would turn into the host. So I would turn into this. When the pizza came, I'm like, hey, I love the Dave Portnoy's pizza reviews for Barstool Sports. So all of a sudden I looked at my buddy. I said, is your camera rolling? He's like, what do you mean is my camera rolling? I'm like, hit play. It's like, what? And boom, I like popped right into it. I'm like, hey, so-and-so, blah, 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 with pizza review, yada, yada. And I'm like, done. He looked at me, he's like, dude, you didn't even jump. And I'm like, no. And we did another thing. And I'm like, try it again. He's like, what? And I jumped right in, and we went right in, and I didn't even hesitate or whatever. He looked at me, he's like, when you had a script, you were stumbling. He goes, when you can improv it like that, you were lights out.
That resonates with me so much, because when I talk about my podcast, Adversity to Inspiration, we were talking about it before we came on. I do so much prep work for it. I research because I want to honor those stories, and they're pretty heavy, sexual abuse, or my last guest, her husband was murdered. So it's hard to make light of those things. So we put so much preparation in there. I have these detailed scripts, and that's exactly right. I stumble over them. But when we speak freely, when you and I are just having a conversation about things we're passionate about, I'm so much better. I think I speak much more articulately and emphatically, and I love that. So that's what I love about Whatever on Wednesdays. It's just totally unscripted, and it's humorous and it's fun. And I think that that's really a reflection of our characters, and that's what it speaks to. I mean, we are easygoing, and I think that's an example of how you're living life fearlessly. I love the beer pong story. So we do have a mutual friend, and she was on my podcast last week, and she was drinking a beer and I was toasting, and it was a wine glass, but it really was juice. And I think that you still got to live life. And I'm not a big drinker, but I certainly like to still celebrate. I think we can celebrate life without drinking or without drugs. And if I want to drink juice in a wine glass, I'm going for it.
Well, and there's a thing I'm not posting on my Facebook. This the day that mutual friends coming up, it is the first Friday, and the town's gonna have a celebration. In our building, there's going to be vodka tasting, like vodka. So a company in local area, the local grown through farm or whatever is still in vodka, and they're coming in. Vodka and I are a battle, so like I'm gonna stay away. But I think, to me, when we're growing in our addictions, even though you're not doing it, you don't need to be around it, but you need to test yourself a little bit. And I say not test just to grab and drink, the test of, hey, can I survive in this environment? If like the beer pong thing, can I handle 4 or 5 hours in this environment? Yes, I can. Okay, now I'm matured at that level. Now let's go to the next level, like we're going up the stairs. And I didn't post it on my Facebook because I did not want the group of people to know that I'm around vodka, because I knew I had a history with it. So I'm like, and I'm going to tell the owner story. I'm like, I'm coming, but, and he knows exactly, like we have a few people that battled in this place, but I think I need to confront that animal in the best way. I'm going to say animal. Like I need to see that face, or see that beast face to face. I think it's just like the warrior in me that wants to just crawl right up and look the beast in the face, be like, all right, let's go. And it's not like get ballsy about it. Not that, like, I know physically I'm mature enough where I can't touch it. Like if I smell it, get it out of my, like, just get out of my face. So I'm going to navigate that floor correctly and just kind of look at the layout and then be like, okay, hey, I'm comfortable in this corner, or hey, I'm comfortable in this location. But to me, I think that's a maturing process of your addiction, or overcoming it, that you still have to have some sorts of normalcy in your life to a point. I don't use the term normal, but some fun.
I agree. I think too, there's also strength in admitting that you're not comfortable in it. If you go and you decide that you can't be around it. And it's because there are times when I do feel like binging again, and I recognize, go to the macaroni and cheese festival or whatever it is, vulnerable, and I can admit that I'm uncomfortable in that situation because it can derail me. And I can, easily gain 20 pounds in a weekend.
Yeah.
If I play my cards right. So I think that there are moments when I say to myself, I'm uncomfortable in that situation and I'm weak and vulnerable, so I don't do it. But there are also moments when I'm victorious and I can do it. So I think there's strength on both sides of the coin.
Yeah, and he told me that last time. He told me he kind of pushed me away from it for the beer pong thing. He's like, if this brings back bad memories, whatever. He's like, he goes, I'm keeping you in the corner until you're comfortable. And he's like, and then when you're comfortable, come in by us. I'm like, that's fine by me. And I was perfectly fine with that. Well, I'm gonna talk it right now, but it's gonna see how I feel at that moment. And it's so much like this stuff, so much day by day stuff, and as much as, and we're gonna wrap this up here soon, but as much as people would say, hey, like the Dave Ramsey's, hey, plan for 5 years ahead, plan for 10 years ahead, plan for 2 years ahead. I think the further along I got with my journey, the more I planned ahead. And right now, the direction I'm currently was not at is not going in that direction. I think that's where the addiction jumped in, because you had that gap versus going day by day where it'd be like, okay, I need to get better at this. I know I have this. Let's just worry about today. Obviously you got bills coming up. I get, that normal life stuff, but it's a lot easier to manage just today.
I agree. And there was a period in my life, and I think that this really was such a habit that derailed me in so many ways. I overthought so many things. I was trying to figure out my future before. I was lamenting my past, trying to figure out my future, and I wasn't living in the present. And I think that's the most important thing I do for myself today. I try to live in this moment. I don't worry about what's going to happen. I don't romanticize the future or the past for that matter, or over traumatize the past. I try to live right where I am today. I've forgiven myself for so much of what I've done in my past and so many of the flaws. And I think podcasting, and I think that you can attest to this too. I mean, it really wasn't until I got into podcasting and interviewing that I really believed and understood that everybody has a story. Everybody's flawed. Everybody's carrying something. And it really became almost a free therapy for me. It really was liberating to know that we're all part of humanity, and humanity is flawed, and we're not supposed to be perfect. It's not the nature of the game. And I think that was such an important lesson for me.
Yeah. And I'm going to tell people that want to get in podcasting, it is a huge therapy session. It's on the positive side, not the bad side. It definitely, your healing is going to accelerate when you look at and when you start becoming a podcast host. So we're going to wrap it up here. It's Friday night. I know me and you can go forever, and I know, we can work forever. We'll just say it that way. So where can everyone find your information, the books, all the fun stuff that's coming down the pipeline here?
So almost everything can be found on my website, which is jtdcoachesme.com. So I have all my social media links there. I don't have the book there yet, but I will. And I think that everything that I do, I keep there, the podcast. And if anybody's, looking to be a guest, they have a story, feel free to reach out to me. If you want to talk about weight loss, anything, I will speak to anybody. I respond to anybody who reaches out to me. And it's not like I said, it's not in the profit. It's in the connection. I love connecting with people, and I know you do too. We're not in it for the money. We're in it for really to elevate ourselves and to learn more and to bring value to the world. So please reach out to me. And this won't be our final conversation. We're going to have tons. Chad's going to be on my show and both of my shows, and we're going to continue this conversation.
Yeah, and I'm going to say, guys, we didn't get into podcasting to get rich.
It actually costs us money. That's the reality of it.
Exactly. But thank you for coming on the show. And like we said, this ain't the last time we're going to be doing this. So
Thanks
enjoy. No problem. Enjoy it. It's 8 o'clock your time. I'm gonna say, hey, let's end it. I will obviously I'll send over that link for that other stuff. So we'll
Perfect.
go from there. Have a good Memorial Day weekend.
You
And
too.
go say hi to the family.
You too.
See ya.